Okay. Okay. Yes. Good. Yeah. Right. Good. Very good. Very good. That's a good. That's it is. That's a good step right there. Right. Yeah, it is. Very good. Keep them in your prayers, then. Everyone keep calling your prayers. All right. Anybody else have? Let's go pray for it. Anybody else have a praise report, prayer request? Here we go again. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then Lori Carpenter, right? Lori? Okay. She's on our prayer list, I think. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anybody else with a prayer request? Okay. Anybody else with a prayer request or unspoken request? Something you want to pray about, not to mention out loud? Let's go to the Lord in prayer then. The Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to be in your house, Lord. We thank you for the praise report. I pray for Kyle that you'll help him, Lord, that you'll help him fight his addiction. I'm not sure of his salvation, Lord. He's made a profession before. I pray that you'll work in his heart. If he is saved, that you'll bring him along, Lord, through this addiction, and give him victory. If he's not saved, I pray that he'll get saved. I pray for Lori Carpenter, to her health needs, Lord. And if she's lost, her and Jeff are lost, that they'll get saved. If they're saved, that they'll get back in church and serve you. And, I pray for Jim the third, that his heart surgery go well. And I pray for the other requests for the man with the cancer, and it's going to doctors and nothing else they can do, Lord, I pray that you'll work in his life, Lord, if he's for the family, that you'll comfort them at this situation. I pray for those that lost a loved one this week, that you'll comfort them. Those who have lost a baby this week, that you'll comfort that family and work in their hearts, Lord. If they're lost, that you'll send someone to witness to them, that they'll get saved. And I pray that you'll use this, use each one of these situations for your glory. And I pray that you'll use everything in our life in a way that'll allow us to witness for you. And please use us to be a light in our community. And please use us for your glory. In Jesus' name we ask. Amen. All right, let's sing a song. All right? Forgot where I was at. We're going to do next. Stand Up for Jesus, page 331. You can't sing this sitting down. Okay? Stand Up for Jesus. 331. Okay, here we go. Stand up for Jesus, ye soldiers of the cross. Lift high his royal banner, it must not suffer loss. From victory unto victory, his army shall he lead, till every foe is vanquished, and Christ is Lord indeed. Last verse. Stand up for Jesus, stand in his strength alone. The arm of flesh will fail you, ye dare not trust your own. Put on the gospel armor, and watching unto prayer, where duty calls or danger, be never wanting there. Thank you. Have a seat. Anybody have testimony? Somebody want to praise God for before we're doing anything else? I have one announcement. Friday night, most I don't know how many of you filled these papers out for Friday night to go to the soul winning meeting, soul winning class on Friday night. If you haven't filled it out, go ahead and during the bulletins, you get one night before you leave, fill it out and give it back to me. Yeah, I know. It's supposed to snow, so the numbers will be down. But those who are really determined to learn how to win someone to Christ, they'll still go out there and do this anyway. So if you haven't filled that out, fill that out and give it to Tammy before you leave tonight. And we'd like for everybody to go just to know, just to have the confidence to know when you're witnessing somebody how to get past that hurdle, what's the next thing to say. And that's the biggest thing to go on Friday night, okay? Nobody signed, yeah, we haven't signed up anybody for Saturday. We can Friday night while we're there. If someone decides they want to go Saturday, but you need to go Friday before we can go Saturday. And the Saturday is more of a leadership thing. It's more of an organizational leadership thing for whoever wants to do that. If someone wants to say, yeah, I want to be in charge of the soul winning groups, then who's going to go? It's just kind of to organize. I hate to go. We've done this before where we organize and just say, okay, these people need to go, they need a visit, they need a visit, they need a visit, and we show up on Thursday night and just send everybody out in different directions. And we used to do that all the time. So it's kind of hard to go when it's 16 degrees, it's kind of go door to door. But if we have some specific place to go to, and me personally, we used to go every Thursday night for probably 20 years. Every Thursday night, we'd go on a visitation, knock on somebody's door. I can't tell you how many times people didn't want us to come in because it was after dark. In the wintertime, it's after dark at 7 o'clock. But springtime's coming, 7 o'clock won't be dark yet, and we'll be going out at that time. We used to have last year, 2 years ago, we did a lot of door-to-door, just handing out flyers in the evenings on Thursday evening. It was great to do that. But the leadership thing for Saturday is to say, okay, not just we're going to go to this place this week and this place next week, and these are the houses we need to go back to and keep record of things. Okay? All righty. Anybody else got a testimony, something we want to praise God for before we get into the lesson? Going once, going twice. 1 Kings chapter 5. 1 Kings chapter 5. We'll get right into this. First Kings chapter 5, and we'll read the first 5 verses, and we'll skip around and read some more verses in just a few minutes. We'll go back into chapter 14 in just a minute too. Solomon is king, okay? He hasn't been king very long. And Hiram, chapter 5, verse 1. And Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father, for Hiram was ever a lover of David. And Solomon sent to Hiram and saying, Thou knowest how that David, my father, could not build an house under the name of the Lord his God, for the wars which were about him on every side, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. But now the Lord my God hath given me rest on every side, so that there is neither adversary nor evil occurrent. That means nobody wants to fight against Solomon. And behold, I propose to build an house in the name of the Lord my God. As the Lord spake unto David my father, saying, Thy son, whom I will set up, who I will set upon thy throne in thy room, he shall build a house unto my name. Stop reading right there. Okay. By what we just read, most of us, everybody knows this. When David was king, he wanted to set up. He wanted to do this. He wanted to set up a temple. He built a nice palace for himself, or a nice house for himself and his family. He had a great army. He had a great nation. Everybody loved David. He was a man after God's own heart. And he wanted to build this temple for God, but he couldn't do it because God told him not to. Okay, and God specifically let him know through his preacher, said, because you're a man of war. That means you fought with every neighbor on every side. It wasn't your fault. David didn't provoke anybody, but he fought with all the neighbors all the way around him. And if David had built the temple, then everyone would have looked at it as David's temple, our enemy, right? All the Philistines and everybody all the way around him would have looked at David and said, he's our enemy, that's his temple, he's worshiping that God. Okay, so God didn't want David to build that temple, but David started preparing, building, gathering money, gathering supplies to build the temple. Okay, so Solomon became king, and God had told David that Solomon would build the temple. But Solomon says, David, my father, was a man of war. He said, I've got peace on every side. Verse 4 says, But now the Lord God has given me rest on every side. I don't have any enemies. There's nobody who wants to fight against me. Look back up to chapter 14, verse 20. Just right across the page. Chapter 14, verse 20. Judah and Israel were many, as the same which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. These people haven't made. They're very prosperous people. They have nothing to fear. They don't have an enemy anywhere that will attack them, and they've got all they ever wanted. Okay? And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms, from the river of the land of the Philistines unto the border of Egypt. And they brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life. That means for the next 40 years, they don't really had to fight with anybody. Okay? Solomon's provision for one day. He doesn't eat all this himself. Okay? Solomon's provision for one day was 30 measures of fine flour and 60 measures of meal, 10 fat oxen, and 20 oxen out of the pastures, and 100 sheep, besides harts, that's deer, and roebucks and fallow deer and fatted fowl. For he had dominion over all the region on this side of the river, from Tipshaven to Asa, over all the kings on this side of the river, and he had peace on all sides round about him. That's a key for Solomon. Okay. One more verse 26. And Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. So Solomon kept the army. Look at this way. David fought all these battles. He had a great army. They really didn't lose hardly anything, right? And so when we read of Joshua, they were 31-1. They only lost one battle, as Ai. And David had spent his whole life. They won all their battles. Solomon kept the army. He had those 40,000 stalls for horses, and they had chariots and different. They had their men, like our reserve units today. They'd be called up when needed, but most times they're just farmers or they're fishermen or whatever their jobs are. They had their jobs, builders, carpenters, whatever. They had their jobs, but then they'd be called up when they had to go to battle. Under Solomon's reign, they didn't have to. Okay. Thinking of this, Solomon had peace on every side. Verse 24 said. David fought the battles, and Solomon enjoyed the peace. David spent years in a cave, and Solomon for the most his entire life was brought up in a almost like a palace. Okay, when like the Taj Mahal palaces that people build today, I don't think, but it was a huge house. Okay, he had a bunch of brothers and sisters. David formed an alliance with all his neighbors after he beat them in battle. But just like with Hiram, he formed an alliance with them, and Solomon gained from the alliance that his father had formed. Solomon could negotiate peace with his neighbors because of David's victories, and Solomon maintained the army and the nation that David helped to build. I think about this. Militarily, there's nobody around them that wants to fight them. Okay? Now, just like, would Mexico want to fight against us? Would Canada want to fight against us in a war? No, they wouldn't. Okay? Now, Charlie can go into history and say, yeah, we did in War of 1812 or whatever, we did fight against the Canadians, the French Canadians, in such and such a time, and it's time past. But just like America, the United States has really not lost anything, and nobody would want to attack us, I don't think, in a ground war. Okay. So here we are with Solomon, that his dad did this, this, and this, wartime, so he has an entire life of peace. He reigns for 40 years with wars. Has to, okay? Everybody wants to fight against him. He doesn't have to. The son doesn't have to. I think about this. I don't know why this comes to my mind. But I relate this to child rearing, okay? Maybe it's because I'm reading books. I'm reading more in the mornings that I have time to read. There are people that I know that want to fight every battle for their child, okay? And Jeff Fox, where he says you might be a redneck if your mother gets in fist fights at high school sporting events. Right, Vicki? That's good. Okay. Sorry if I offend somebody in the room. Okay. A lot of people, a lot of adults want to fight battles for their children, or they want to do for their children all the time, and not let their children learn on their own. Okay? Tammy was telling me she was listening to Dave Ramsey. I was heading this direction, and Tammy was telling me she was listening to Dave Ramsey. Anybody know who he is? You ever listen to him on the radio? He has Charlie's. You know who it is? Marlon, you know who it is? Kathy, you know who it is? Vicky Dio. Okay, Dave Ramsey has a financial plan. He's on the radio. He's got books. He's got videos out. Millions of people have followed him and how to get out of debt. It's called Financial Peace University. We kind of halfway followed along the thing. We haven't done very well with it, but we've done to get out of debt thing was a good idea. Okay. But Tammy was listening to him the other morning, which is really good. It's all biblical advice. He's a Christian guy, and it's all based on that. There's no way to have peace without walking with Jesus Christ, Prince of Peace. Okay. But he said a lot of people they don't want their children to fall, so they're like wrap them in bubble wrap, make sure they don't fall when they're little, all right? Or they don't want to let their kids make mistakes, okay? But they want to fight all the battles for them. And sometimes those kids grow up and they're 30 and 40 years old, and parents are still buying everything for them. 30 and 40 years old, parents are still fighting all the battles for them, okay? That's financially. We'll get to that part in just a few minutes. We're not supposed to fight our children's battles for them, but there's some way we ought to be preparing for them or paving the way for them to make their way a little bit easier. I think about this. Our farm in Ripley. Most of you have been out there at one time or another. You've been to the farm in Ripley. There's a well out on the porch. Okay, the house has been there since 18-something. Okay, so I didn't have to dig that well. I enjoy getting water out of the well. Right. I enjoy what my great-grandparents prepared for me to have, water on the porch, right? And with David Underwood's advice, I've now got water in the house. You know, well, you can only flush it once every half hour or so, but it works, okay? Runs slow. Okay, and then our parents moved down. Our great-great-grandparents moved. Great-great-great-grandparents, I think it is, moved to Jenkins Drive, which is now Jenkins Drive, in 1842. They've done a lot of preparing for stuff, right? Now, I've worked on the fence all the way around throughout my life. Rebecca learned how to do it when she was about 3, right? So I've worked on the fence all the way around, but I didn't hit the string the original barbed wire around the fence, okay? But, right, Kathy, on your y'all's farm up around Elfie, I didn't hit the string. I'm glad that somebody made the first step of the preparations that made my job a lot easier, just going back around and fixing it when a tree falls, right? Okay. we got to prepare for our kids. Solomon still had a lot, had to. He didn't have any battles. He had to execute Shimei and Adonijah and a couple of different people. But for the most part, David prepared for him. Okay, spiritually, we're supposed to prepare for our kids, set the boundaries, and to teach not what to do, what to teach what to do. And here's the boundaries. Don't go outside those boundaries, but also teach why we do it. Okay, now, Charlie, your kids are little, and you think, well, I said this, and they didn't obey me. Okay. If you say they didn't obey me, sometimes along the line we just do it. You got to do what I say just because I said to do it. But then also you got to teach as to why we do what we do. Okay, there has to be a principle. Is teach the principles as to why we do what we do. Deuteronomy teaches that we do it when we're laying down, when we're sitting down, when we get up in the morning, when we're walking by the way. It doesn't matter. All the way through life, we got to be teaching them, preparing them. Especially, you think some people they think it's funny when little kids tell them no. Now Josiah's on the idea of yes and no. He hasn't got it down yet. You want a piece of bread? He says no. Okay, he's got the words wrong, right? You want this cookie? No. He got the word. No. I don't want another cookie, but I don't want that cookie. But he grab it. It sticks in his mouth, along with everything else. Somewhere along the line, we got to teach them the difference. Okay, preparing them. Spiritually speaking, they got to make the decisions on their own. Okay? Anybody want their children to be lost? Anybody? You know what? There's no way you can force your kids to be saved. And a lot of people think, and I've talked to all kinds of people think, when I witness to them, are you saved? If you die today, you know for sure you go to heaven. They always want to bring up the fact that grandpa was a preacher. Okay? Or grandma sang in the choir. Or grandma was a Sunday school teacher. And God doesn't have any grandchildren. Okay? So somewhere along the line, they got spiritually, they got to get it themselves and find out why they do what they do. They must decide to follow Christ on their own. They're either going to follow your path or they're going to make up their own path. They're going to say, I'm going to do this my way. There's a guy that we work with that when I witnessed to him, when we first started working together, when I witnessed to him and told him about getting saved, coming to church, and different, trying to get him to get saved, get him to church, he said, I worship God. I said, yeah, we go to church. He said, I go out in the woods or I get on my boat. Well, most of the time when he's on his boat, he's drinking. Okay? And the boat, for him, you always have to have beer. You always have to have a drink when you're on your boat. Okay, are you worshiping God when you're out there walking in the woods? Now, I can worship God when I walk in the woods, but I like to worship God in church. I like to worship God when I'm kneeling down in the morning. I like to worship God when I'm praying in the morning too, or reading my Bible. I like to have fellowship with God that way. But I think a lot of times we say I worship God in my own way. It's I'm going to worship the God that I make up in my own mind. It's called idolatry. I'm going to worship this candle. I'm going to worship this light. I'm going to worship a flag. I'm going to worship something else. It's worshiping something other than God. Okay, but we can't force our kids to worship. We can show them how to worship. They need to decide for themselves. They're either going to follow you or not. Most parents somehow don't make the path real clear. Establish the borders and set the example, but they don't explain as to what we're supposed to be doing. Okay. I remember a preacher talking about Bub when he was a teenager. Every afternoon when he'd come home, when he'd get home from school, he took long naps every afternoon. In high school, he'd take a nap every afternoon when he got home. But he'd also lay in his bed and read his Bible every afternoon when he got home from school. The preacher didn't say, okay, kids, you got to go and read your Bible right now. He'd just get out on his own right there and read his Bible. Okay? And I remember Kent Cunningham. What's his wife's name? Kimmy. Kimmy walked by Blake's room one time and he was laying in the floor. And she went and told Kent, you got to go talk to him. There's something wrong with him. He's laying in the floor. I think he might be crying or something. And Kent went in and said, son, you okay? He looked up and said, yeah, Dad, I'm praying. Okay? He got it on. They got to get it on their own. Okay? We can read our Bibles to our kids. Read the Bible to our kids. Josiah reads. Okay? David, if you're listening to this, I think David's back there playing checkers right now. Uh, Josiah likes to read the market bulletin. That's what he said. Buy cows and you buy farm implements and stuff like that. He eats breakfast. He reads. David, you hearing this? He gets the market bulletin with his breakfast. Okay, right, Rebecca? Rebecca's got a video of him opening his book. Okay, is he reading? Okay. Sure he is. We just can't understand what he's saying. It's Chinese or something. I'm not sure. Okay, but the truth is that he got that from example because that's what his mom and dad do. They read to him, right? Okay, or he comes in the living room and Papa always sitting there reading. Now, we can read, but we can't force them to. We got to set the example. We can read our Bibles, and we should. Everybody in this room ought to read your Bible. You can set the example, but you can't read for them. You can read to them till they learn how to read. And you can have family devotions. I know and some people do this. I don't know if anybody in this room does this, and I'm not against it doing this. But I've heard people say that they get together as a family every night and they read the Bible together for 30 minutes. I wasn't spiritual enough to do that. Was I, Rebecca? We didn't do. Tell me if we ever sat down and done that. A couple times we read the Bible together, looking for verses and stuff like that. We've had devotion going through the whole book together, whatever, at different times. But as far as like 30 minutes to an hour or whatever, well, we're not. To me, it's okay. We just never did. Okay. But you can set the example. You can't read their Bible for them. They sure ought to be reading yours. Okay. You cannot force Christianity, but you can lead them. Say, come on, let's go this way. Okay? Let's go make this visit. Jared and I went, that's called Josiah. Jared and I went on visitation the other night, just go out and see somebody on Saturday night. We had a great time just going out to visit. Okay? But we've always done that. Okay? And soul winning is someone who's excited about being a Christian when other people become Christian. That's what Friday night's about, learn how to be a witness. But say, I'm excited, I'm glad Jesus saved me. I want this person who's lost to get to know Christ as well. But it's more than just saying to do it. It's just the idea of doing it and teaching. Okay? So there's spiritual things, but you can't. You prepare like David prepared for Solomon. It made Solomon's life a lot easier with preparation for the temple or defeating all the enemies, and Solomon didn't have to fight battles. Spiritually, we're supposed to do that. Financially, we're supposed to do this. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22 says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of a sinner is laid up for the just. You know, the first time I read that, I thought that means you're supposed to give money to your grandkids. I mean, is that what that mean, Marlon? Read the verse. Proverbs 13, 22 says, a good man leaveth inheritance to his children's children. Is that right? Does that mean to his children's children? Does that mean you're supposed to give money to your grandkids? I do too. That's a good idea. But you know what? Sometimes it's not just the money. You might be leaving an inheritance to your children's children. Good name is rather to be chosen in great riches. Is the fact that you raise your kids up right, so if they know how to raise their kids up right. That you raise your kids up right, whether it's spiritually, financially, whatever it is, socially, okay? Don't pick your nose in the public sun, whatever it is. That you raise them up in this way so that you leave an inheritance that your son's going to hand off to his son, okay? We learn wisdom, we fight battles. A lot of times just for our kids. I'm not going back to the high school fist fights. You know, that talks about the fist fights that the mom getting the fist fight, the high school sporting events. We leave an inheritance by building and teaching and leaving something. I made mention a few minutes ago about the farm in Ripley, or the farm where we live. That is to me, it's an inheritance thing that was given by our grandparents and great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents. But it's more than that. Financially, teach them what to do with their money. Okay? I mentioned Dave Ramsey a few minutes ago. He's got books out, Charlie, that you can teach your kids how to handle their finances. You know what? If I'd have been taught some of those principles, they're biblical principles, but my parents were never taught these things, some of these financial principles. if Tammy and I have been taught some of this stuff when we were kids, when we first got married, we were 19 years old. I think we were maybe 12. Looking at the pictures, we think we were about 12, but we were 19 when we got married. If someone had taught us some of this stuff then we could probably retire now. Okay? Well, we can't retire yet. So if we've been taught these things, to teach them about finances and tithing. Now, I don't think I remember about money that my mom taught us. So she said, pay yourself first. Make sure you put something back. But the biblical principle, given it should be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and run over, so shall be given to your bosom. That's a biblical principle. But you got to pass it on to your kids and say, we do this. We teach this to our children. Teach it to them when they're small. I was tickled back here. I may mention this last week when Hazel had her birthday party back here, and Josiah stuck his finger in her cake and he gave it to her. Right, stuck the finger in the cake, so she know what to do with that. You know, because he's already had his first birthday. He knows what to do with it. Dig into the thing. So he went for her mouth. Okay, he didn't go this. Okay, given it should be given. He's been taught that somewhere. Okay. And the last thing we'll teach them, which is preparing them, is a character or a work ethic. And again, this is something that's more caught than it is taught. And Proverbs chapter 10 verse 4 says, the hand of the diligent maketh rich. There are battles that are fought, and the children have peace. But the battles are only fought character-wise if the parents learn how to work. There's generations. There's people in Sissonville I know, families I've known in Sissonville, where you have 3 generations in a family and nobody works. Okay? They don't want to work. They've never been taught to work. That goes back to the inheritance thing. To me, the Bible says a lazy man, his whole life is like fighting through a hedge of thorns. Okay? Now, I work. I like to work. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I'm a salesman. It's not hard work. So, sometimes, or I'm a preacher. It's not hard work. You work 3 hours a week. But to me, it'd be harder work being lazy than to be diligent. And anybody can learn to do nothing and sit on the couch. Okay? we didn't want our child, we don't want our grandchildren. My parents didn't raise me to be nothing and sit on the couch. And there's something like a character thing that has to get up and go, has to do something. There's a man here in Sissonville that was, I can't say where he was working. He was working at a publicly funded place in Charleston. And he got in trouble because he talked to a lady who was at the publicly funded place whose son worked. She was there, her son was there, and her grandson was there, and none of them planned on working. She didn't work, he didn't work, and he didn't work. And that's 3 generations. They didn't live in the same house. They had 3 different places. But the publicly funded place was saying, we will take care of you. Somewhere along the line, that first generation should have taught the second generation some kind of character and say, okay, get up and go to work. Okay? But the first generation didn't, so the second generation doesn't have it. And then the third, you know what that is? That's fighting battles. That's not fighting the battle here that the next generation doesn't have any peace, and the following generation doesn't have any peace. The first generation blames the teachers for all the problems that they have in life, and then the second generation comes along and says, well, if I get any problems, it's my teacher's fault, okay? Because that's what I was taught by my mama. And then the third generation, they sit on the couch too because they had nothing to do. And Brother John, are you critical of these people? I'm saying someone's got to change it, okay? Okay. 3 generations. They had no one that works. They're still fighting the same battle that their parents and grandparents fought. Well, Brother John, they got talent, but talent, I'd rather have character than talent. Someone has to set the boundaries and fight the battles so that the next generation make it easier, successful. I don't want to go back to Ripley and hand dig a well. Okay, hand dig the well, and then lay the stones around the outside of the well and let the water seep in. I don't want to do that. I don't have to do that. Well, Brother John, we drill the wells now. I know what 150 years ago, whenever the family did it, they hand dug the well and laid the stones and let the water, where the spring was at, where the water would seep in. I don't want to go around here and have to start all over again, putting fence all the way around. It could be like David. David said he's going to rebuild his fence when he retired. He didn't have to do the whole thing because his grandparents did the first one, right? Make it easier on your kids. Fight the battle. Fight the spiritual battle for them, okay? And then show them. Not just say, do this because I say do it. Lead them. The difference between leadership and dictatorship, like Moses led his children through, led his people through the Red Sea. Pharaoh drove his into it. All Pharaohs died, okay? Moses' people went through to the promised land. Lead. Set the example. And fight the battle to make it easier on your kids. Not easy like I'm going to spoil, pampered kids that's never leave my house and always, not that you're in the house, never leave the house, never go out and work. Okay? Not spoiled, pampered kids that are, who's telling us this story? There's a person that is in their 90s, their child is in their 70s, and the child has never worked. I know who told me the story, but I can't repeat it. The person's in their 90s. They had money. They raised their child up. This is in the city of Charleston. They raised their child up in Charleston. The child never got a job. He never worked. And he lived at home all his life. And parents took care of him, provided everything he ever needed. So now he's in his 70s. Well, now he's drawing Social Security. Now he's always had whatever he wanted. And they thought that makes it easy on him. He had nothing to do. He had no reason to get up in the morning. Okay? Let's pray. Thank you, Lord, for loving us. Help us be the Christians we ought to be. Forgive us where we come short. I pray that you help us set the boundaries and then set the example for our kids as we raise our kids. Use us for your glory as we influence our children, our grandchildren, and neighbors. I thank for the kids that came tonight on the bus and the kids that are back there in the classroom. I pray that you'll use us as a witness for Christ to set the example to everyone we work with, everyone in our family, in our community. Thank you for loving us, Jesus. Thank you for dying on the cross for us. In your name we ask. Amen. Let's sing. Anybody got any questions on character, child rearing, fighting the battle for your kids? I feel like I was rambling for the last 20 minutes. Page 328, Come Thou Fount. You sing one verse. Okay? Come Thou Fount. Here we go. Come Thou Fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing Thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount thine fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. Sing last verse. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness, like a fetter, bind my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it for thy courts above. Charlie, you dismiss us? Thanks for coming out tonight. Yeah. Yeah. One real spiritual. One spooky spiritual. Do what?